So that's not Adam's fault. We did change this a couple times, so it's now native features. So I am Seth Remington. I'm a Bezlio developer. Been with the company SaberLogic Bezlio 16 years, so for a little while. So native features is we're talking about using hardware on the device that you wouldn't get otherwise, perhaps just running something in a browser, right? So we're taking advantage of things. We're diving a little bit deeper. We're talking about things like the GPS, the camera, things such as that. So this is a little bit different than perhaps developing a bezel that will run on the browser, because some of this stuff is not going to work. So you'll see the workflow as we go through here. We're going to build this on the fly. We're going to do this live. So I'm hoping I don't crash and burn. If you've ever seen anybody crash and burn in front of a live studio audience, you might see it today, because it could be me. It could be this guy. But you'll see how we go through. It's not too bad. First, I have to digress a little bit. We got to talk, unfortunately, about big words like synchronous and asynchronous. Now, some of you may be familiar with this already. If not, we're not going to go too deep into this, but just enough so we can understand the code that you're going to see, why it looks the way it does. So think of synchronous things as happening one after the other, right? The next one cannot happen until the first one finishes. So think you're going to go on a water slide at a water park, and you're waiting in that line, right? And you got to wait for the person in front of you to go, and you can't even get on until they get out the other end. That's synchronous, right? It's painful sometimes. Asynchronous is the opposite. You can have multiple things going on at the same time. So think in that same water park, if you walked up to the slide, and every person that walks up, suddenly a new slide appears, and they can go on whenever they want. Human beings are asynchronous, right? We can do multiple things at the same time. We can type with 10 fingers. We can drive. At the same time, we talk. The only blocking feature of humans is a sneeze. If you have to sneeze, like everything else stops, right? Nothing happens until you're done with the sneeze. So that is our only synchronous feature. So because we're doing with native things, we're calling out to the hardware. It's going to take a little while sometimes to get the answer back. We don't want the application to do nothing and freeze up while we're waiting for it. So we don't want our bezels to be sneezy. We want them to work nicely. So the way that we do this in JavaScript is promises. So then promises, once again, I'm not going to go too deep here, because I get that same face every time I have to deal with JavaScript promises. But real quick, this is what a promise will look like. So do we have the laser pointer? Sorry. All right.
Oh, I do.
This is the synchronous portion of the presentation.
There shoots a little green beam.
Oh, okay, thank you. So notice that do something. This is a function. This is our call to the native hardware to do something. It's going to take a while. So here's the part we want to point out. The then. So a promise says, I will give you an answer eventually. All right? Wait for it. It's coming. The then is where you tell it, okay, when I do get my answer, here's what I want to do with it. So you're going to see this type of signature throughout the rest of these examples, where we're going to call a function, and we're going to put our code inside of this then. We usually get whatever the result is, and we're going to do something with it. And you notice in good programming practice, we do have something in case there is an error. We can at least catch it and handle it. So like I said, I didn't want to go too deep, but just wanted you to be aware of when you see these, not to get scared of what the code looks like. It's really not that much. We're going to handle the result of our hardware, what our hardware does inside of this then block. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is barcoding. We did talk about this a little bit yesterday. We kind of said we were going to see it in action, so now's the time. Now, I should mention, so dealing with hardware, right, not everything works the same everywhere. Things get weird. So I'll try and point out if something works on iOS and Android, or only on one or the other. Most of the things do work on both. So barcoding that works on both platforms. And I threw out a little list here of the different symbologies, is that the right term, that are supported. So you got QR codes, data matrix, those are your 2D kind of things that we talked about yesterday. 3 of 9, 39, code 128, various things like that. So here, like I said, we'll demo it, but let me just walk you through real quick. Most of this, barcoding is one that's a little bit, the response is a little bit more, it's a little more complicated. You're going to get a data object back that has 3 different attributes to it. Text is what was actually contained in the barcode. That's what you're really interested in. Canceled, the user could cancel out of it, right? And they say, well, never mind, cancel, and you're not going to get any data back. So we actually check for that here to make sure the user didn't cancel the process before we try and get the data from it, because it's not going to work otherwise. Format contains the symbology, but who really cares about that? As long as you got what it was in there, we don't care. So we're not going to do anything with that here. But once again, like I said, we call, this is the one line of code that Brian referred to yesterday that brings up the barcode scanner. And here is where we're simply, this is really where we're just going to say, hey, take what was ever in the text of that barcode, and we're going to stuff it into a variable. So we'll do that here in a second. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So here's where I might crash and burn. I got a bezel here. First thing we're going to do, and I'm sorry, I know it's not exciting to watch somebody type, so I hope I can at least keep this interesting. I'm going to create a variable to contain what the barcode has. We'll call it barcode data. I'm going to make use of the snippets over here just so you can see how this works, guys. So I'm going to throw in a raw data view, so we can just easily see what is contained in the barcode, and I'm going to stick that variable right here. We're going to go through this process a few times as we go through here. I'm also going to create a button, I think this time, to call out the barcode scanner. So let me just throw a button on here, and I'm going to be just a little bit fancy here, and we're going to make this an image instead of just some text. I think I did that correct. All right, we're going to save this, and so this is the process. You can develop it in here, but we're going to bring it over, and we're going to swipe down to refresh. So you saw Bob doing that earlier. We're going to bring this up, and there's a little button with a little barcode symbol on it, but it's not going to do anything yet. So we have to actually make that function. So if you look back here on the, you notice we have an on button click function. When we click that, let's edit that. Now we're going to go down into our snippets under code and barcode. We're going to drag that sucker up here. And most of this is just documentation that you saw in the earlier slides, just telling you how to handle it. And all we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to replace this with our variable. I always do that. I'm going to verify that, make sure that is kosher. Save and close. Save here. Once again, we go back to our TV screen here. We're going to update it. All right, now when we click on that button, you see here's our barcode scanner. Here, let me, so you can kind of see, we talked about the density of various barcodes. Here's a nice example of it. I'm not going to be able to reach. I do have it printed out though. These are all the same thing. This is all the address that we're currently at. So I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully, can anybody see the TV all right? No, it's kind of small. All right, so there you go. It's fairly quick. There is a little bit of, as you see, a little bit of startup time as to bring the barcode up, but that's the slowest part of the process. Oh, you can, I think Brian mentioned it yesterday, you can, or somebody, but you can use Bluetooth scanners, like laser scanners. Those might be quicker depending on your application, but for a quick and dirty, it's hard to beat this, and it's pretty quick. There's your 2D. They all got the same data, so that didn't change. So there is an example of how to use the built-in barcode scanner. Anybody have any questions on that while we're still fresh in the memory? Excellent. Love it. Did I did my job right or wrong? I don't know. All right, our next native feature, geolocation, that's telling where you are on the planet Earth, and geocoding, that's turning well, geolocation is coordinates, latitude, longitude. Geocoding turns that into an address or vice versa. Since the inception of Bezlio. There's always been, probably the easiest way is there's this bezel.env.current longitude. Let me show you real quick where that's at in here. There are snippets in case you didn't know this was in here. I got to remember where they're at too. Under code, Bezlio, what's that? Current latitude, current longitude, just as a quick reminder in case you forget what it is. I will caution that as of currently, that only updates when you first start the app. It's one time, so it's quick and dirty, but it may not work for what you want. It doesn't always, if you're moving around, that's probably not going to be the best thing for you, and that's why we're going to show you this other stuff coming up next. So this once again works on iOS and Android. We got a couple functions here. Get current location, which will give you your current coordinates from your GPS. Get distance, which you supply it with where you're going, latitude, longitude, and it automatically figures out where you are, and then it tells you how many miles to get there. Calculate distance, which is really just if you've already gone to all the work to gather latitudes and longitudes of where you are and where you want to go, it just does the math for you. That's actually a quick function. So you could use that like, we're talking about the Ohio Turnpike. So if you one day have warehouses all along, how many miles is it?
241.
241 miles? Yeah, Brian?
Is that as the crow flies, or is that street distance?
Yeah, that's as the crow flies.
Okay.
So you might have to grow some wings.
That's fine.
But in this application, this would make sense. So they were talking about they have warehouses across all that. Without wanting the user to not have to actually pick what warehouse they're at, you could figure it out by your coordinates. So you could easily find out where you are. They have a list of, they already have the latitude and longitude of all the warehouses. All you got to do is run this loop through that list, calculate the distance between each of them, and say if you're pick whatever, less than a mile, you assume that you're at that warehouse, right? So that's a quick math problem, that calculate distance. And then the geocoding, reverse and forward, going from latitude, longitude to address, and vice versa. I wrote all these out, but let's maybe not spend the time going through each one of these here. Let's just, let me just show them to you. I'm going to plow through these here. Oh, one point about that calculate distance that I was talking about, it doesn't return a promise, so you don't have to deal with the promise signature that we're dealing with, so yay on that. Yeah, we're gonna talk about these more as I demo them. All right. All right. So let's do. First of all, we're going to do get location. Get your current location. So let's create a variable. We're going to call it current location. Is this stuff boring? Is it boring to watch me do this? I don't know.
I'm excited to watch you tonight.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in the. Yeah, I do that all the time too.
No, I got it flustered.
I know.
Keep your fingers on that home row stuff.
I can only do this. I'm not asynchronous.
Use all your fingers.
I'm synchronous when it comes to typing. Yeah. All right. So we got a variable. Let's throw a raw data block up here. Again, just so you can see the output. That is right here. Okay, I'm going to throw the variable I just created right in here. This is just a quick and dirty way of seeing it. All right, very good. Now, so there's our markup. Yeah, please.
Are they? They're not typed. Can you just put whatever you want into a variable, or and then can you make them like arrays or anything?
Make it a what?
Like the variables arrays.
Arrays?
Yeah.
Array? Oh, I'm sorry. Array. Maybe it's the echo. I'm getting old in my ears. Erase, like clear them? I know. It's bad. So clear the variable out?
What?
Like erase it?
Array.
Stupid ears. So I'm sorry, guys. Yes, you can make arrays. You use it with the square brackets. Make an array. It is a native array, correct, in and of its. Well, it's an object. I'm sorry, which is slightly different. So that's a key, that's a typed thing where you have a key and a value. But so yes, you can. And your first question, they're not typed, and it changed. That's JavaScript.
One thing that you will see when you're actually like doing the coding itself is all of the JavaScript is actually TypeScript. So, and depending on how you write your code, there may be times that it'll bark at you about if you're trying to use types incorrectly. Like if I create a variable and I assign it to a string, and then I try to assign it to a number, it's going to bark at me because it's going to say, hey, you just treated this like a string, and now you're acting like it's a number. So you actually can use like the any and all that kind of casting to make it work better. So it does try to protect you when it's inside of there, but yeah, the variables themselves have no specific typing to them.
If you right click on one of the variables and say edit, you can see we
Oh.
can see in there too about like the different kinds of formats you can do. So you can, those little blue pills and kind of drag those down if you didn't know.
What's the scope of the variable?
These are going to be global to the bezel. Yeah, just to the bezel. Although if you have
That's not an array.
bezels, like how Bob showed earlier with the idea that we got a bezel, there's actually a special communication pathway that you can send your variables down and then to the children and then back to the parent as well. That's where you'll see like on parent change and on child change, that's the communication pathways to and from the like subdomains.
Which almost made it to this presentation, but did not.
Yeah, it's a complex concept.
Yeah, I don't think I have enough time. Bezelception, yeah. So yeah, by default, when you create a new variable, it's empty string. But you'll see we're gonna stick an object in there. So we just change the type on the fly. All right. So we have our variable. Okay. So I'm just gonna stick most of this stuff in ng on init, so it runs when we first open it up. Now under snippets, under code, let me do these under geolocation. Here's current location. We'll drag that up here. And once again, you see that same signature we talked about with the then and the catch. So we're going to stick the, well, that's not going to work. Back that up. We're going to set that variable equal to, what returns is this location.coordinates object, which actually has latitude and longitude, obviously, which is what we're interested in. It has a few other things in there, like accuracy and some other stuff, but
Probably the coordinate type too.
probably. You probably know more about that than I do. There's 5 or 6 things in there, and I saw latitude and longitude. That's my man. I'm going to go with that. So that's what I'm interested in. We'll save that. Save and close. Save this, and then we'll go back over to the TV. We'll refresh. It's pretty cool. You can change something over here, and it automatically refreshes over here in your mobile app. And boom, there's our latitude and longitude of where we're at the moment, right? Pretty exciting. All right, let's talk about, let's do the distance one real quick. We're going to follow the same procedure. But we're going to do the, what was the brewery last night? Acronym. All right, we're going to go to distance to acronym. Once again, let's throw our, I'll just do it this way. Throw our variable into our quick and dirty. Okay. Let us now go back to ng on init. I don't know what language that was in. Distance from current location. Okay, so this is expecting one of two things here we have in the comments. You can throw out an object that has a latitude and longitude, such as that, or 2 separate parameters. So in this case, I'm gonna cheat. I don't know if you guys do the same as me. I don't know. Maybe someone has a a better way of getting one-off coordinates. I usually go to Google Maps, and was it 526 South Main Street? I think that's where it was. No, that's where we're at. Where was that? 58. East. Oh, just type it in. That would make most sense. There it is. This is this little trick I have. If you right-click on it and say what's here, it'll throw it down here at the bottom. That's how I do it. There's a little tip for you. Someone probably has a better way than that, though. So I'm going to throw these into here, okay? And don't forget, we got to save the result. So once again, we're going to stuff the distance. So remember, this is going to do two things. It's in the background, it's gotten our current location, which we did earlier, but it's going to do it again, and then get the distance. Oh, I always do that. Sorry, friends. That was stupid. Okay. We go our standard operating procedure, save it, go over to our mobile device. Once it's saved, refresh it, come back, and there is, if you want to know exactly, it's 1.02737, etc. miles, yeah.
You can change that from like miles to kilometers or meters or feet or something.
You cannot.
Yeah, because it's just Euclidean distance that is calculated.
Imperial Euclidean.
I don't know.
The workers will rise up. Your imperial measurements.
That's above my pay grade. I don't know about that.
Seth, you show those chain of provinces.
I do.
Okay.
Good call.
I'm not going to break up.
Yeah.
Explain why the provinces didn't matter.
Yeah. And I'm going to show why something doesn't work and how to fix it with the chain promise. Good call. All right, so there you go. That's that. I won't show you we won't go through all the trouble perhaps of doing the calculated. Let me just show you. Here's the one I said was simply a math problem. You just pass your two latitudes and longitudes and it'll do the math for you. That's what's actually going on in the background of this get distance. But if you already have the latitudes and longitudes, that's the quick way of doing it. All right, let's talk about geocoding for a bit. So this is, once again, we're going to start off with, let's see, let's do which one do we want to do first? Let's do the forward. So let's create a variable. Oh, this isn't going to work because I'm in my code editor. Let's rename it forward geocode. Let's do our pre-tags here and stuff it right here. Okay. Now let's go back into ng on init, and let's bring up under geocoding. You will see forward and reverse. So forward, we're taking an address string, and it's going to turn that into latitude and longitude. So let's go ahead and do where we are, which is 526 South Main Street, Akron, Ohio, 44311. Okay. Put this here in our variable. Verify it. Save and close. Save this. Probably getting sick of this little dance. Refresh. And there is our latitude and longitude plus the miles that I accidentally copied, which makes no sense in that context. Good. All right. So that is native to the device. That is using something in magic in your hardware to do that. let's also do it in the opposite direction real quick. Here's where we're going to get to what Brian was talking about. Let's do the reverse geocode. So let's add a new variable. Call it reverse geocode. Now here we're gonna, let's do the same thing. No need to change what's working. Stick the variable in there. Okay. Let's go to ng on init. We're going to let's use the coordinates we got when we did our first function, our get current location, okay? So we stuffed those into current location as like an object, this latitude and longitude. So we're going to use that to try and reverse it and get our address, okay? So let's come down here, do a reverse. Now, so let's talk about this for a second. That looked like a lot, but most of this is just documentation, because what the reverse geocode gives you back is a little more complicated. I assume it's because, this could be anywhere in the world. Not everything has states and zips and streets and whatnot. So you get back this crazy, they call it country code, postal code, sublocality, locality, like thoroughfare is actually the street. Sub-thoroughfare is like the address. So like 123 Main Street, 123 would be under sub-thoroughfare. So you might have to, you'll see what the object looks like, and you might have to kind of figure out what it actually is, because it's not street, city, state. Anyway, that's just what most of that documentation is. So here, we're going to pass in our latitude, longitude. So let's use current location, and I stuck that into latitude. Now, I'm going to tell you ahead of time, this is not going to work, and anybody but Brian cannot answer. Anybody have any idea, he kind of gave it away, why this might not work correctly off the bat the way I'm doing it? All right. Brian can answer. No, you're fine. Go ahead. You have a guess? An idea?
Current location or longitude?
Sorry. I want this here. Oh, you know what? Let me forget all this rigmarole. Let me just, so you can see everything here. Let me just set that to address. Oh, yeah, you see the whole thing. Okay. All right, let's save and close. Save, refresh, run it, and you get an empty string. So the reason it didn't work is getting back to, think about promises. A promise says you will eventually get a result, just maybe not when you think you're going to get it. It's not immediately. So if you look at, and this is just a gotcha to be aware of if you do have to do something like this. Way up here, as soon as we call in this function right here, it returns immediately, and it's already moved on to this, and then it moved on to this. It came down to here, it ran that. We ran this reverse geocode before we ever got the result from our initial call. That's why. So we passed it a latitude and longitude that we didn't even know what it was yet. So in these cases, you have to do what is called promise chaining, and that's when I especially get the face of that man, the most exciting man who ever lived? Man. All right, so here is how promise chaining works, and I have to look at my documentation to do that. So we're going to move some of this back up. What we want to say is, all right, think back, we got current location. We wanted to do, after that, we set our variable to it, but we don't want to run the reverse geocode until we get back our results. So we got to do like a then, and then another then. So you chain these thens together to saying, okay, when you get the result of this, do this with it. When you get the result of that, then do something else with it. This is the way that you deal with multiple promise type results. So in order to do that, I'm going to come here, I'm going to grab my first line here. I'm going to paste it up inside of this then. Does that make sense? And I'm going to return it actually. Okay. Just trust me on this. Then we're going to take this sucker, this then, and we're going to chain it right after that one. So everything that's in this block will run first. We're going to return the result. Once we get our location, then we can return the result of the geocode, and then this block will run, which assigns it to our variable. All right?
So the promise chain essentially works as its own thread?
Yeah, I don't know how in the underlying, I guess that's a way of thinking of it. It is running asynchronous things synchronously. Like you have to wait for you can't do the second one before you have the first one. So it's a way of running them one at a time. Sort of thread-based. I don't know what the underlying operating system is actually doing, but it's a way of thinking of it.
Yeah, I believe, and I don't know if we have support for it yet, but if you want to treat promises synchronously, you can with the wait operator, and that'll basically say, I want you to still act like a synchronous operation instead of an asynchronous operation. But generally, that's kind of considered like bad programming practice right now, because, you know, to Seth's point, it's like you have a lot of cores on your phone, so you might as well keep busy instead of just having a wait to run such things.
So this time it worked because we waited until we got the result. And so here's that object I was talking about. What did it give us? It put us on West Fowler Street, which is actually probably more accurate than, I don't know why our address is Main Street. But I don't even know if there's any addresses on Fowler Street. See, it would have been right here under sub thoroughfare, but it didn't get us one. But once again, we didn't have an account anywhere. We didn't create a Google account to do that. That's actually using what's on your phone to do that natively. So that only works on the phone. It's not going to work in web app.
The problem that you can run into is in an instance like that is what they call like a race condition. It's that basically, depending on how long it takes the prior operations to run, it may be filled or it may not be filled. So that's what they consider like a race condition. So if you ever see things that are kind of operating a little bit unexpectedly, like it's a good time to look at to see if your async program is kind of doing it right, or if there's maybe something that's kind of going right in there.
Any questions on geolocation, geocoding? Awesome. This one's vibration, haptic feedback. So this, the haptic stuff does only work on iOS, and even more than that, it only works on iPhone 7 or newer. I only have a 6S here, so I can't demonstrate that for you. It's also hard to demonstrate vibrating types of things. Yeah. Vibrate is just a basic vibration. That does work across Android and iOS. One little note here, you don't have to deal with promises here because it's like fire and forget, like just vibrate. I don't need to get the response back. I'll assume you did do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Here's the other stupid thing about iOS. So let's talk about just the basic vibrate. This is the most maybe utilitarian of them all. You do pass it in milliseconds, how long you want it to vibrate, but iOS also says don't care. I'm just going to do it. That's like a second long or something like that. I don't know how long it is. But you also can't just leave this empty because then it doesn't do it. You got to pass some integer to it, and then it'll vibrate for however long it wants to vibrate. Android is a little bit nicer about it. It will listen to what you say. And apparently you can also, I haven't tested this because I don't personally have an Android, but it says you can do patterns too. So if you want to vibrate 2 seconds, pause for a second and do another 2 seconds, you can get fancy. So that's a nice little plug for Android, I guess. That I won't, like I said, I won't demonstrate this, but the haptic feedback stuff, you have 3 options to choose from. You have selection, which would, they say, suggest for if you have a change, maybe when you're selecting something. Notification, which has 3 options, is error, success, or warning. That's kind of a way to give a little feedback to the user, depending on that. Nice little touch. And then impact, which I'm not really sure. It has light, medium, and heavy. I don't know if you'd use that when something, it says, it's suggested when something collides with something else. I don't know what that would be in Bezlio, but or snaps into place. So those are just, once again, that's just niceties, right? It's
so the haptic impact is there's a very soft, like you can feel the difference on the phone.
yeah, kind of like when you do a 3D press and it kind of like
there's different levels for
yeah.
it. Or when you're playing games, you get
Yeah, it's probably more for games.
different levels of it, interaction, like 2 dots and stuff like that. Has a lot.
Yeah. So we need some Bezlio game developers. We need a.
Well, I mean, like when you're thinking about
Yeah.
it, this would be really handy, especially in like if you're using it for like a warehouse management thing, where people are not necessarily looking at the device while they're doing stuff, so that you can give a nice little bit of feedback if they're doing the wrong thing. That heavy,
Yeah.
response could alert them to change their behavior.
Sure. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
You could do like low power Bluetooth, and then whenever it hits past a certain like signal strength, we could actually use the haptic feedback. That's when you got to the right area.
So I'll just, like I said, this doesn't really demo all that well, but say you wanted it to vibrate when the barcode scanner, because the scanner scans, it doesn't actually give you any feedback. So we could just go back into our function here, and this is under vibration haptic feedback down here, and we can just throw this into there. And so I don't know why I'm doing this, because none of you will be able to. I don't think you can hear it that far away. But I will tell you that it vibrated, and you will believe me. Oh yeah, I wonder if I can get this sucker to scan. Nope, not so much. That one, this one will go when I've tried it. That one worked. So it vibrated. There you go. Yeah. So it works.
That feels like a lot.
It's a hard. I'm not lying. Okay, now where are we at? Last one is the camera. So this could be. I was trying to think of use cases where you might need to take a photograph inside of a bezel or something. You guys would probably have more ideas than I would, but say you're in receiving. You receive a purchase order. You're receiving a purchase order. The material's damaged, right? So you got to take a photograph of it, document it, so you can try and get your money back for the damaged order. You might be able to just write in the bezel, take a picture of the damaged goods. It gets uploaded to, saved in a database, save it to some file system somewhere, in that way. So I will. This is what not too difficult, same as the other ones. You call camera.getPicture, and you do something with the result. Now, this one does have a lot of options. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but so you can tweak this one quite a bit. The quality, this would be the size. It goes from 0 to 100. The default is 50, but depending on the resolution or the quality of the resulting image. The second one might be the one that might be of the most interest. Whoops. You can either have it return a URL, which is like a URL local on the device, which may not be that useful to you if you want to say upload it to a database. You can also change that to data URL, which you get the result as a base 64 string, which you can then do something with. You can use the camera or have it pull from already in the photo library. Not that interesting. Allow edit. I should have just taken this off here because it's very basic editing. It's so basic it's almost pointless to even mess with it. I should have just taken that off this list and not even mentioned it to you. So you can get a JPEG or a PNG. You can specify, it will scale the results. Say you want a just small image, right? You don't want to take up too much space. You can say, I want it 200 by 200, and it'll automatically scale it for you.
Can we be extra and get raw from it?
No, I'm sorry. No RAWs. Apologize.
It's all your fault.
I know. I should have done better. Can do better next time.
Yeah, fix the phone stuff.
Yeah. And then camera direction, front or back. So its default is back. So one last demo here. We're going to create another variable. You're probably sick of me doing this. We'll say we'll name it picture. This time we're going to throw an image tag on here. That is under basics, image. Okay. I'm going to set, here's the secret sauce. We're going to set the source of the image to my variable. Yes. I don't know if I need this or not. I'm going to put it on there. Be careful. Okay, and let me throw a button on here too, just so I have something that I can tap on to take a picture. Let's say take picture. Makes good sense. All right, save. Oh, I got to change this to button click 1. Okay, now under that button click, let's go and edit that, and let's add the function, which is, as you can probably guess, under code, camera. Get picture. Don't let that scare you. Once again, this is just the documentation you saw. We don't really need any of that, okay? But if you did want to, here's where you could change some of that stuff. You have an options. So say you did want to change one of those, you throw it into that little options object, and it'll take care of it for you. In this case, let's just take all the defaults and let us stick it in our picture variable. How am I doing on time?
It's 10:35. Next one's at 11:15, so you're still good.
Oh, okay. Save that. Go back, refresh. Okay. Say take picture, and let's hope this works. So you can either retake, it'll give you an option to retake it, or use it, and there it is. Yeah. Nice, fancy. There you go.
Can you put puppy dog faces on people?
That's the next version.
Is there a thought filter for this?
Next version. Next version.
Can we get Snapchat in it too?
Next version.
The nice thing too is that because the one version of it puts out the base 64 file, is that's the same way that you can write using the file system plugin. So if you wanted to write those pictures back to your server or something like that, it just gives you exactly what you need.
Yeah.
So it'll just show up as a JPEG then?
What's that?
When you write it back,
It'll write it back on your server or wherever you want.
just as a JPEG or PNG?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So,
Also pick from the library too, so if you want people to pick the one.
any questions on that or anything we discussed?
There's no limitation to the size that we could write of that. Like, do you need to worry about the quality versus what we can write? You guys agree with that?
Oh, like the size you could write back to the server?
Yeah.
Next question? I don't know.
I'd be careful with the size on it. Like, there shouldn't be a particular size issue in terms of total size, because it should be smart enough to separate it out. But because we have to transfer it, we have to turn the binary into a base 64 string array, and then we pass that along, which allows us to break it apart and put it back together. That can take a little bit of time if you're moving really big files. I don't think that most people understand that, like, that picture is probably like 40 megs. If they're really big, it can be used if you allow like full space, especially when using the back-facing camera. So it is smart to reduce the quality and size to what you really need it to be.
So quality is the main driver we should want to mess with on that.
Yeah.
target width and height.
Yeah, because this will scale it. So let me just see if I can do this for you. What? I'm being bold. I know. I had it. I had it. What am I doing? Stop right now. So there's a thumbnail size. Yeah, it works. Yeah.
It renders as a string outside of the brackets, like where your math entry there, your key values.
The image there.
It renders as a string outside of the brackets. So it's only the object references side of it.
Yeah, so if you use, this is a little bit weird part of Angular formatting is that I bet there's an image tag that you could use as actually the Angular binding. So anytime there's like square brackets around it, or there's or the parentheses, like the parentheses mean it's outbound binding, square bracket means it's inbound binding. You'll see square bracket and parentheses, that's a two-way binding. If you're trying to bind to things like that, where it's actually an HTML property, it's not an Angular property, then you use those double curly braces, and that tells Angular to interpolate the variable into HTML.
So that's what, and straight up string like that.
Well, in this case, this is kind of weird, but in that image file that Seth selected,
Okay.
it was actually that data URI
Yeah.
that he's passing into it. But yeah, so it'll be a string in that case, but it could also be a base64 string.
Yeah.
So let me. In this case,
Yeah, that part's a little bit weird sometimes, but once you get the syntax up, it's still pretty natural.
in this case, like Brian was saying, it's really just using I threw it up there. It's a local. It's just a local image path, which that's what I'm saying. That may not be, if you're kind of trying to grab it and do something with it, you might want to use the base64 because that's going to give you the raw data encoded as a string, basically, that you can then do something more interesting with.
If you're inserting a database, a lot of times that's how you want it to, right? The base64.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian?
So a common application for us for taking photos would be a document. So like a signed purchase order or a signed quotation. Is there any way to incorporate like a crop functionality in with the camera? Because we don't need the background around it, and actually kind of makes art, like for my world, it makes it a little bit worse. Yeah. You know, just, it would be a little feature, that's all.
All right. Let me show you that editing.
So, can you do that on screen, thank you?
After all that, Seth talks about how non-edit isn't useful. Here it goes.
Yeah, and maybe it is. I don't like it. But in your case there, actually this might not be the worst thing in the world, but you'll see it's kind of hokey. But all it is cropping, but the way it does it is goofy. So
So if this turns out to be useful for me, by Seth's definition, I'm useful.
that's correct. All right, so I'm gonna take a picture of this, but then, all right, so it gave me a little. I don't know if you can see that. It gave me a square. I can zoom in. Basically, it's only going to save what's within that square. That's all you can do with it. So I could crop it just to that, and now I have just that.
Back like the 200 by 200 then, or?
Oh, I did take that out. Sorry. It should, yeah. It'll scale it down. You cropped it in that editing, and then you can also scale the result. Yeah, by setting it.
Adjust the square, the crop.
No, that is one of the things I don't like about it. Like that's all you get is that square.
Got it.
Hope you like the square because that's what you got. What's that? Yeah. Okay.
One thing that you have to watch out for is that it is possible to pass source, width, and height that just need compatible with the camera. It just won't work.
Okay, so to follow on that, so sometimes one application, you can't do everything in one app, right? So can we access the file system from like the device's file system to go get, say, a PDF from Scanning or something?
There is a native plugin to access the file system, yes. We have not implemented that yet, so I don't know the full answer to your question, but the short answer might be
Because
possible.
that could like kill two birds with one stone. You can just use an application that's really good at that. They can also, like turn it into a PDF. One, instead of handling it on the server side.
Yeah.
You said there's an option to get from a local library.
Yes, there is. Do you want to see it? Oh,
From the library, people that
that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
could do that. Yeah. I'm cutting you off there. Yes, please.
So we can take a picture, we bring in the Bezlio, can we then write that, well, we can store it in a network location, right? Network share or something like that.
Right.
Can we then write an insert into a database to store
Yeah.
that information?
Yes, you should be able to. So if you had like a blob field in a database or something like that that would take it, you should be able to call it and pass it into, save it in the database, yeah. Being careful, mindful of the size because it's, yeah. Yep. Good. Anything else?
Do you have a recommended way for making QR codes?
In bulk, no. And I just used I got fancy and Googled an online generator, which is actually pretty slick. If you just need to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like it's pretty easy. I forget what the website is.
What's your mission for printing? Or are you going to print them or display them? Your QR codes?
both.
Well, if you're going to print them, just go get Siegel Scientific's bartender. That's bartender.
Okay.
The barcode tender.
Thanks.
Best one out there for it. Worth every red cent. And they get their money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is the one I used.
In the app, but I just don't know why we could use that, so we've not implemented that feature yet.
It's for the Pokemon. Do you guys have an integration to Pokemon Go yet?
What if you want to generate a QR code per order or per shipment?
You could actually do it, but then you'd have to have somebody else scan your mobile device. Like, so you could absolutely do it because it is built into it to generate QR codes. But yeah, so I mean, if you got a use case for it, we would be interested in seeing the application.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're going to start slapping QR codes and everything you want.
Yeah, I mean, might as well. Yeah. That's the craziest thing to me is that, like, you know, and I brought this up yesterday, is like, that people are still using, like, non-2D barcodes, and it's just because the hardware aspect, but it's like, honestly, for phones, you'll notice that QR codes actually scan way faster than your traditional barcodes will. So if you're doing something for phone-oriented, you get the benefit of the density, and at the same time, you get it's actually faster. That's because they put those 3 blocks. Those 3 squares on there, and that allows the camera to focus on where the QR code is versus a regular barcode. You have to just kind of like line it up to get it to work, right?
If you want to understand the paperwork, like SSRS and Crystal, none of that can be a job. We could go and get the files. But there's also a library to go and generate content. Check some of the calculations.
Very good. Anything else? Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah.